The streetlights flickered once, twice, then steadied, casting long, trembling shadows across the icy pavement. Christmas lights hung from the eaves of empty houses, their cheerful glow fractured by the darkness pressing in from the alleys. A soft scrape echoed somewhere behind a corner, too deliberate to be wind, too faint to be certain. A man, coat collar pulled high against the bitter December air, walked slowly down the lane. Each step crunched against the frost, a brittle, lonely rhythm. He glanced at every window. Every flicker of movement made him tense, but each time he found nothing, only the hollow reflection of his own anxious face. From somewhere far off, the faint sound of a carol, warped and distorted, drifted through the night. He froze. It was only for a moment, then silence. Too long a silence. And then, a door somewhere slammed, hard enough to rattle the glass of a nearby storefront. His breath came out in ragged clouds. The streets were supposed to be quiet tonight, empty, peaceful, safe. But nothing felt safe. Something skittered across the edge of his vision. He turned sharply. Nothing. Only shadows, moving where they shouldn't. Then he heard it, soft, deliberate, almost a whisper, close enough to freeze the air in his chest. "Why are you here?" He spun around, heart hammering, but the street was empty. The lights swayed, the frost glittered, and somewhere far away, a bell rang once without reason. And just like that, the night seemed to stretch on forever, the emptiness watching him, waiting. The man's boots scuffed softly against the frost-crusted pavement, each step a fragile protest against the silence that had swallowed the streets whole. Christmas lights winked feebly from the houses, their cheerful reds and greens muffled by the thick night. He pulled his coat tighter, feeling the cold seep through the fabric, settling like ice in his bones. Every house along the lane seemed abandoned, curtains drawn tight, the windows reflecting his solitary figure. And yet, he could swear he saw movement in one of them, a shadow shifting behind a lace curtain. He stopped, heart jumping. Nothing. Just a trick of the light. Probably. He had come out to clear his mind. The holiday cheer at his family's house earlier had felt forced, hollow, a mask over something he couldn't name. So he had wandered the streets alone, hoping the cold would burn away the tension knotting his chest. But now, surrounded by this quiet that felt too deliberate, too watchful, he wondered if leaving had been a mistake. The distant echo of laughter, too high, too brittle to belong to anyone real, rippled through the night. He glanced around. Nothing. Only the skeletal branches of trees scratching against the street lamps, and the faint glimmer of frost under the dim glow. He remembered the note he had found pinned to his mailbox earlier, a scrap of paper with jagged handwriting. "Don't walk tonight." He had laughed at first, dismissing it as a prank. But now, his laughter had died somewhere between the first crunch of ice and that too perfect silence. A sudden wind rattled a signpost, and a soft whisper brushed against his ear, like breath from nowhere. "You shouldn't be here." He spun, eyes straining against the shadows. "Who's there?" His voice sounded small, fragile, swallowed immediately by the emptiness around him. Only silence answered. He kept walking, faster now, boots crunching against ice. Every few steps, he thought he saw someone, a figure at the corner of his vision, pale and still. But when he looked directly, nothing remained. The emptiness pressed closer with every heartbeat, and the ordinary world he knew seemed to thin and fray at the edges. Ahead, a narrow alley yawned between two houses. Something about it made him pause. A faint light pulsed inside, flickering like a candle struggling against a draft. He shook his head. He didn't know why, but he felt drawn toward it, as if the street itself were pulling him, testing him. From behind, a soft scraping noise made him freeze. Slow, deliberate steps echoing his own, just out of sight. He spun again. "Hello." His voice cracked, sharp in the frozen air. Nothing. But the steps continued, keeping pace, then fading when he stopped. His chest tightened, and a shiver ran through him. The street was empty. Empty. Supposed to be empty. And yet, he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on him. From every window, every shadow, every glimmer of light. A sudden, harsh clatter echoed from the alley ahead. He swallowed, heart hammering. And then, from the darkness, a single, sharp whisper. "Turn back." He didn't. He had to see. The alley yawned wider as he approached, the flickering light growing stronger, warmer, almost human. He stepped in, boots crunching over broken glass and frost, and a chill rolled over his skin like liquid metal. The warmth vanished. The alley narrowed again, walls pressing close. And then he saw it, a figure still pale standing at the far end. Its eyes glimmered in the dim light, too bright, too knowing. And it smiled. Something about that smile, frozen and terrible, made his stomach drop. He opened his mouth to speak. No words came. And in that moment, he understood. He was no longer walking through a street. He was walking through a trap. A sound, a creak, a whisper, a laugh that wasn't human, echoed from the darkness behind him. He turned to run. The alley stretched impossibly longer than it should. Doors along the sides, ordinary just moments ago, now gaped like open mouths. Shadows twisted unnaturally, writhing in corners. And he realized with a cold certainty that the streets themselves were alive, and they were watching. The man's breath came in ragged clouds, each exhale freezing instantly in the biting December air. He had left the alley, but the memory of that pale figure, its impossible, knowing smile, clung to him like frost. The street beyond seemed unchanged, empty in the ordinary way, but he knew better now. Something was there, watching, waiting. As he walked, every light flickered in rhythm with his heartbeat. Every house he passed seemed to lean closer, their dark windows like hollow eyes. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying fragments of sounds he couldn't place. Soft cries, a low hum, a fleeting laughter that was gone before it could be recognized. He remembered the old stories his grandmother had told him every Christmas. Tales of shadows that moved on their own, spirits wandering streets on nights when the world forgot to sleep. He had laughed then, shaking his head at the ridiculousness. But laughter had abandoned him somewhere between the alley and the next lamppost. The first micro-event came almost immediately. A window to his right slid open with a screech, revealing nothing, just the cold, dark room inside. But when he glanced back a moment later, the curtain had shifted as if something, or someone had moved inside. He froze. No one had entered. No one had left. And yet, he could feel presence, patient and deliberate, as if the night itself breathed around him. He tried to steady his thoughts, grounding himself with logic. Maybe it was fatigue. Maybe the cold had fractured his mind. But then a neighbor's door creaked. A shadow appeared in the gap. She was an old woman, wrapped in blankets, her face pale under the porch light. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, voice trembling. "They watch. Every year. Every night." Her eyes darted down the street, then back at him, wide and frantic. Before he could respond, she slammed the door, leaving only the echo of her warning behind. His pulse raced. What was watching? And how did she know? He kept moving, faster now, footsteps crunching against frost, every shadow a potential threat. From somewhere behind, a faint scratching followed him, a rhythm he could not place, not quite footsteps, not quite claws. He turned sharply. Empty street. Empty houses. Only the wind's faint whistle. A flashback hit him suddenly. Christmas nights from his childhood, quiet streets after late-night church, shadows seeming to move at the edge of vision, whispers from dark corners. He had always dismissed them, but now they returned with clarity, memories twisting into something he could not ignore. The street narrowed, and the streetlights flickered violently. He caught sight of movement at the corner. A figure crouched impossibly still. It wasn't human, or at least not fully. Pale skin reflected the lamplight unnaturally, and its eyes glimmered with an intelligence that chilled him to the bone. He stammered, voice cracking. Who are you?" No answer. Only the figure standing upright, tilting its head slowly, smiling that same impossible smile. He ran. The footsteps behind him multiplied, echoing unnaturally, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind. Every corner he turned revealed more. Figures frozen in the distance, staring, watching. Windows along the street reflected faces that weren't his own. Whispers grew louder, indecipherable, yet urgent, almost pleading. A familiar shop appeared ahead. Its lights were off, windows dark. Relief sparked in him, until he saw the reflection in the glass. His own face, pale with fear, and behind him, dozens of shadowed figures, all smiling, all watching. He tried the door. Locked. The handle rattled in his grip, but it did not yield. A soft voice murmured from the other side, just above a whisper, "You belong to the street now." He backed away, stumbling over uneven cobblestones, breath sharp in his lungs. Something moved in the shadows, slow, deliberate, circling him. A flash of movement revealed not one, but multiple figures, emerging from corners, alleys, windows. Their presence was overwhelming, suffocating. He couldn't see their feet, only torsos and heads, pale and grinning. The micro-events escalated. Objects on the street moved subtly. A trash can shifted closer, a bicycle tipped slowly, unnaturally, toward him, a discarded toy rolled across the icy road as if pushed by unseen hands. The air seemed to thicken, the cold more biting, heavier, as if infused with intent. He stumbled into another alley, desperate for escape, and froze at a doorway smeared with frost. Inside, shapes shifted, indistinct but undeniable. Whispers pressed against the walls, against his ears, telling him things he couldn't understand yet somehow knew were true. "You are alone. You cannot leave. It watches." A sudden, sharp sound, a child's laughter pure and brittle, erupted nearby. He turned toward it, heart leaping. Nothing. Only the street stretching on, empty, endless. And then he saw it again. That pale figure, now closer, tilting its head, smiling wider. Its eyes gleamed with a terrible knowledge, as if it had seen his every memory, every fear, every weakness. Flashbacks flooded him. Childhood nightmares he had never spoken of, shadows that lingered in corners, whispers from empty rooms, fleeting glimpses of figures in his peripheral vision during holidays. It wasn't coincidence. It was pattern. He had been marked, noticed, hunted. He realized the legend was true. The story his grandmother whispered had roots. Every Christmas night, the streets emptied, and something came out to watch those who lingered too long. It waited for them, patient, inevitable, feeding on fear, shaping it, amplifying it. He paused at a street corner. The lights above flickered violently, then steadied. Nothing moved. He thought he had a moment. Then a voice, low and slow, slithered into the quiet. "Do you see them?" He whipped around. Empty street. His pulse thundering. The air seemed to pulse with expectation. And then movement. Figures emerging from every shadow. Walls, windows, alleys. Silent. Grinning. Watching. Their presence pressed on him, disorienting, warping his sense of space and time. He tried to run again. Doors appeared where there had been none. Windows glowed with unnatural light. Shadows stretched impossibly long, curling toward him. His mind struggled to hold onto reality. The micro-events, the whispers, the shadows, the moving objects, coalesced into something undeniable. He was no longer in a street. He was inside a living, breathing trap. He stumbled into a square, heart hammering, chest raw from screaming into silence. The ground beneath him seemed to shift, subtly at first, then violently. The frost melted into something dark, sticky, clinging to his boots. The lights above twisted, stretching into grotesque shapes, reflections of faces he knew, faces he feared, merging into a single, impossible horror. A figure stepped out. Pale, grinning, eyes gleaming like coals. Not a single word. Its presence alone suffocated him. And then a whisper, soft, intimate. "You can't leave." He screamed. The sound tore through the night, but it was swallowed instantly. The figures pressed closer, circling, patient, inevitable. His mind screamed for escape, for logic, for something, anything to anchor him to reality. But the streets, these streets, would not let go. And in that moment, he understood fully. The horror was not in fleeing it. It was in knowing it had already won. The cold pressed against him like a living thing, pressing through coat and bone, twisting into his chest. His breath came in ragged bursts, each one visible in the dim glow of the streetlights, and yet he could feel heat where it shouldn't be, a cold warmth crawling beneath his skin. The streets had become a maze, impossible in its angles, stretching farther than memory allowed. Every turn revealed more of them. Figures. Pale, grinning, their eyes sharp, too bright, too knowing. They emerged from alleys, doorways, windows. They mirrored his every movement, echoing him, multiplying with impossible speed. Whispers swirled around him, indistinguishable words stitched together in threads of fear, each one a nail in his sanity. He stumbled over a curb, scraping his hand against rough brick. A faint metallic clang followed, like chains dragging across the pavement behind him. He looked over his shoulder. Shadows moved of their own accord, twisting, stretching, reshaping. Shapes he had thought were walls were now limbs, reaching toward him. Stop following me." His voice cracked, high and raw. No answer. Only silence, and the sense that they were inside him now, watching, knowing, waiting for his mind to break. He tried to run faster, boots slipping on ice, adrenaline pushing him onward. The street narrowed to a corridor, lined with houses that were both familiar and wrong. Windows grinned like teeth. Doors gaped like open mouths. His heart hammered, blood pounding in his ears louder than any sound outside. One figure stepped forward. Pale, too tall, head cocked at an unnatural angle. It didn't walk, it glided. Its eyes were coals, black and bright at once. It smiled, the kind of smile that promised understanding of all the hidden fears lodged deep in his mind. "You can't leave," it whispered, voice low and slow. "You were meant to stay." The man shook his head, stumbling backward. "No. Please." His words dissolved in the wind, carried away by the night. He could feel the rest of them closing in, a tidal wave of presence pressing down. His mind screamed. Escape was impossible. Every street, every corner, every alley reflected him, mocked him, trapped him. Then another voice, a child's, shrill, brittle. "You're late." He turned. A figure crouched at the end of the street, smaller, almost human, but the face shifted, melting into a dozen forms at once. Memories flashed. Childhood nightmares, holidays alone in empty houses, shadows twisting at the corner of his eyes. All of it had been preparing him for this night. He tried to speak, to demand answers. What are you?" No answer. Just movement. The figures multiplied, emerging from walls, sidewalks, streetlights. Their presence pressed so close he could feel cold tendrils against his skin. His eyes darted around, searching for any escape, any familiar marker. There was none. Time warped. Seconds stretched into hours. The lampposts twisted upward, bending, stretching, glowing faintly like the eyes of predators. The ground beneath him warped, rising and falling in impossible undulations. The figures were everywhere and nowhere, circling, patient, inevitable. He screamed, a raw, ragged sound, and for a moment, just a fraction of a second, silence returned. But it wasn't relief. It was the stillness of inevitability. A whisper drifted through the air, soft as silk, sharp as broken glass. "You always knew this night would come." Images flashed in his mind. Christmas mornings alone, whispers in empty hallways, shadows stretching across walls, the note pinned to his mailbox. Every micro-event, every unsettling moment, every shadow he had ignored converged into this point. He tried to fight, swinging his arms, breaking windows, throwing objects. Nothing mattered. His hands passed through figures, objects shifted before he could grasp them. His mind twisted, unable to reconcile reality with impossibility. He felt himself unraveling, threads of his memory loosening and snapping. From the corner of his vision, a figure appeared closer, taller than any human should be. Its grin stretched impossibly, eyes burning through him. Another whispered behind his ear, cold and intimate. "Do you see them now?" "Yes, I see. I see." He choked on the words. His body shook violently, heart racing, mind breaking. Panic coiled in his chest like a live thing. And then movement above. The lights in the sky pulsed, glowing faintly, casting impossible shadows that moved against gravity. They fell across him, rippling, multiplying, twisting reality into something grotesque. Figures emerged from the air itself, landing silently around him, closing the circle. He fell to his knees. "Please, please." His voice was lost to the night. A single figure stepped forward. Pale, smiling, eyes bright. It bent down, close enough he could feel its cold breath. Whispered words, incomprehensible but filled with truth. "You were never meant to leave. Not tonight. Not ever." Everything shifted. The ground beneath him dissolved into darkness. The building stretched infinitely, reflecting back distorted versions of himself. Every shadow became a figure. Every whisper became a chorus, chanting, laughing, circling. His mind shattered in splintering shards. He screamed again, the sound swallowed instantly by the void. The figures closed in. He could feel the cold seeping into his bones, his thoughts fraying, the edges of reality slipping away. And in the final moment before consciousness left him, a voice, soft, gentle, almost human, cut through the chaos. "Welcome home." The street behind him disappeared. The alleyways folded into themselves. The houses no longer existed. Only the endless night remained, thick, cold, alive. And somewhere, far away, the echoes of laughter, whispers, and impossible smiles promised the same fate to anyone foolish enough to linger on Christmas night. The man collapsed, mind and body broken, swallowed by the streets that watched, that waited, that never let go. And the night settled, patient, inevitable, eternal. The man woke slowly as if from a dream, but the cold that gripped him was real, biting deep into his bones. The streets around him were quiet now, deceptively quiet, like a city holding its breath. Christmas lights blinked above, soft and cheerful, but their glow seemed hollow, flickering against an emptiness that gnawed at his chest. He tried to stand, legs trembling, body weak. The echo of that night's horrors clung to him, a weight heavier than any snowdrift. The streets stretched in every direction, familiar yet wrong. Angles that didn't exist, alleys that led nowhere. He realized, with a sinking certainty, that he was not simply outside. He was inside the memory of those streets, trapped in some impossible layer between the world he knew and the one that had claimed him. His mind clawed for coherence. Had it been a dream? A psychotic break? A hallucination? But the frost on his gloves, the icy crunch beneath his boots, the faint metallic tang in the air, all of it whispered a truth he could not deny. He had walked these streets tonight, truly walked them, and something had followed. Something had claimed him. Footsteps echoed behind him, slow, deliberate. He froze. A pale figure emerged from the shadows, tall, impossibly still. Its eyes glimmered in the streetlight, empty yet knowing. It tilted its head, smiling. "You remember," it whispered, the sound brushing across his consciousness like ice. "Yes, yes." His voice trembled. "I remember." A sudden wind swept down the empty street, rattling the lights and shaking the brittle branches overhead. From somewhere far off, faint laughter floated, brittle as cracked glass. He wanted to scream, to run, but the air was thick with inevitability. Every movement felt predetermined, as if he were walking a path already chosen for him, one that spiraled inward towards something he could neither escape nor comprehend. Windows along the street reflected his own face. But not just his. Faces shifted in the reflections. Pale, grinning, faceless, impossibly thin or grotesquely stretched. They stared at him, eyes bright, knowing. He blinked and they were gone. He blinked again. They were still there, waiting, watching. He stumbled toward a doorway that looked familiar. Once it had been a friend's house, warm and welcoming. Now it loomed like a maw, black and empty. He placed his hand on the doorknob. Cold, unyielding. He tried the door again. Locked. No matter how hard he pulled, the wood didn't give. Somewhere behind him, a whisper. "You cannot leave." He spun. The street had changed. The building stretched impossibly, twisting in ways that made his stomach lurch. The alleys he had passed before were gone. New ones had formed where none had been. Shadows moved independently of their sources, writhing across walls, crawling along the ground. The sense of being observed intensified, pressing down like a physical weight. He thought of his family. He thought of the warmth of the holiday earlier, the forced cheer, the ordinary world he had fled. But that world was gone, dissolved. What remained was this night, this street, this inevitability. He realized, with a shiver that ran down his spine, that the city itself had changed. Or perhaps it had always been like this, and he had only now seen it. From the corner of his eye, a figure moved closer. Pale, smiling, eyes burning with unnatural light. It spoke, soft, almost intimate. "You cannot return. Not tonight. Not ever." He fell to his knees, shivering violently, breath ragged, mind fraying. He tried to speak, to beg, to reason. Words failed him. He was alone. Truly alone, even in the presence of the figures that haunted him. The air seemed to thicken, carrying whispers that layered over each other, incomprehensible but sharp, like fingernails on glass. Time fractured. Seconds stretched, warped. He could feel moments repeating, folding back on themselves. Shadows moved faster than light, faster than reason. Figures emerged from every possible angle at once, forming an impossible circle around him. His chest tightened, mind screaming in panic, but the terror wasn't sudden. It was patient. It was inevitable. He thought he saw a way out, a faint glow in the distance like moonlight reflecting on ice. He ran, boots slipping, arms outstretched. But the streets bent again. The glow vanished. What had seemed open before now led only to darkness. Behind him, whispers grew louder, voices merging into a chorus. "You cannot leave. You belong to the night." He stopped, breathless, trembling, every muscle screaming. The figures advanced, circling closer, their grins impossibly wide. Panic gave way to despair. He realized he was no longer a visitor here. He was part of this, part of the streets, part of the endless night, part of the inevitability that claimed those who lingered too long on Christmas night. The cold sank deeper, sharper, until it felt like ice had formed in his lungs. He collapsed onto the ground. The figures watched silently now, patient, unmoving, their presence suffocating yet still. He tried to close his eyes to shut the world out, but the whispers persisted, threading through his skull, touching memories he had buried long ago. And then silence. Absolute. He opened his eyes. The streets appeared empty. The lights above blinked gently. The wind carried only the faintest rustle of leaves. He thought briefly that perhaps he had survived. Perhaps it was over. Relief surged, fragile and brief. Then, from somewhere behind him, a single low whisper. "Welcome home." He turned. Nothing. Only the empty street, familiar and alien at once. But the feeling remained. That invisible weight, that sense of being watched, of being claimed. He understood fully now. He was not leaving. Not ever. The night had settled inside him, irrevocable, eternal. The streets had taken him, folded him into their endless memory, their quiet, patient horror. He tried to move, to step forward, but the ground beneath him felt wrong. Too soft, too alive. Every step echoed into a void that swallowed sound. He reached out, touching a wall. Cold. Solid. But behind it, a whisper threaded through the brick. "You will never leave." And in that moment, the city exhaled. The lights flickered once. Shadows lengthened, stretching, twisting, until he could no longer tell where one ended and another began. Every memory, every fear, every moment of his life condensed into a single, endless awareness. He was part of something bigger now, something patient, watching, inevitable. The night wrapped around him completely. The empty streets, the impossible angles, the whispering figures, they were not just around him. They were him. And he was them. Somewhere far off, a bell rang once, hollow and faint, yet impossibly close. The echo lingered. The snow fell softly, silently, blanketing the city. And in that quiet, frozen moment, the streets waited. For the next wanderer, the next curiosity, the next soul who thought they were alone on Christmas night. He did not move again. He did not speak. He simply existed, a fragment of the streets themselves, a memory trapped in a night that would never end. And the city smiled.